The report reveals the shelter cost $3.3 million to build. 68 people now live at the site.
They made a mistake. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we've got CTV releasing a press release on Iran. And well, they didn't just make one mistake. They made 7 mistakes in a single press release. Is this intentional or utter incompetence? And speaking of that, we've got the BC government removing Provincial from the BC parks in this era of reconciliation. What does that mean? We've got a bunch of stuff here. Let's jump into this. We got this one from Blacklocks or Holly Doan here saying Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, $3.2 billion telecom subsidy launched on promise of high-speed internet to every home in Canada is not even close to meeting target. Auditor blamed cost overruns and slow processing of paperwork. Of course, another government program not working. We've got this one here from Ryan Gerritsen, independent senator exposing his true colors. He's talking about Charles Adler here. Liberals have been in charge 70% of the time for 125 years. The NDP barely registers a pulse, and the Conservatives still suck oxygen through a mega straw. Yes, Canada, we are a one-party country, no matter how hard you wish to pretend it's a contest. And he says, what this tells me is Canada could have been much more prosperous under a different government. I mean, just imagine where we'd be today if Stephen Harper was still in power or if Pierre Poilievre won the last election. We got Conservative Matt Strauss posting this. So that Prescribe IT scandal, $300 million, the Liberals just funneled over to build this app. There is the CEO was getting paid $1 million. I think it was $800,000 plus $200,000 bonus per year. He wouldn't say his salary. Well, it turns out he has been dismissed. CEO behind failed federal prescription service dismissed. As Matt says, Conservatives just saved you $1 million per year, but questions still abound. Where did the other $299 million go? If the CEO was performing so bad he needed to be dismissed, why was he given a $200,000 performance bonus? Who signed off on his bonus, and why have we still not seen the contracts? This stuff is just so outrageous because when or if the Conservatives ever get into power here to fix this stuff, they'll have not just 10 years of stuff to clean up. We've got 11 years. Every single year that goes on with Mark Carney, all this stuff has to be pulled apart with a forensic audit. There's going to be so much cleanup. We got Leah True Crime here replying saying it's way more than 300 million, double that number. Canada Health Infoway, 228 million, 366 million. Yeah, something really stinks here. This looks to be 5 times worse than Arrive can. Moving ahead, we got Ezra Levant sharing this one here. So originally by this guy, Hillel Neuer, says CTV News, please correct the errors and material omissions in your article by Dylan Robertson. Fact-checking some news that came from CTV that is blatantly wrong. Look at this. A bloc of Asian countries nominated Iran on April 8th to the UN's Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, which informs how UN programs function. And just to clarify, the ECOSOC is the United Nations Economic and Social Council. That's who we're talking about here. Then it goes on to say Conservative MPs Melissa Landsman, Vincent Ho have raised the issue in the House of Commons multiple times in recent weeks. 8 days after this ECO vote, the federal government issued a response. As the position was uncontested, there was no opportunity to vote. And then this one here, Canada works closely with partners to actively counter Iran's candidacies in UN bodies. Now, the fact check says 1, Asia didn't nominate Iran on April 8th. OCO-SOC did. 2, Iran wasn't nominated to this, but to CPC. 3, ECO doesn't inform how programs function. This just goes on and on. 4, we've got there was no vote due to consensus. 5, there was an opportunity for Canada to call a vote, but instead it chose silence and to join consensus. 6, Canada did not work to counter Iran's candidacy to the CPC on contrary. And I just want to clarify, CPC in this context of the UN is Committee, Program, and Coordination. It's not the Conservative Party. It's a body within the UN, Committee, Program, and Coordination. And saying Canada did not work to counter Iran's candidacy to this committee at the UN. And 7, your article failed to fact check the government's false information, even though the reporter, Dylan Robertson, follows me and was aware that it was debunked here. This is just unreal, like just so embarrassing. CTV just getting ripped apart, not for one falsehood, one lie, 6 or 7 of them here. So back to Ezra Levant. Other than those 6 errors, CTV totally nailed it. This is what we're dealing with here. How do you get 6 errors in one press release? Moving ahead, we've got a string of news out of British Columbia that just gets perpetually more outrageous as we go. We've got this one. BC government budgeted $170,000 to mail decals to EV owners last year alone. One full-time staff bureaucrat costing $100,000 per year was tasked with stuffing envelopes and mailing out decals. So these decals are driving in HOV lines, or if you have an EV, like, what a waste of money. Then we've got this one. So David Eby has now announced 17 new priority resource projects, adding to the initial list of this year of 18. So he's added a whole bunch of mines and all sorts of stuff because, well, he's plummeting in the polls. People are starting to wake up, even NDP supporters, that we need resource projects across this country to build wealth. We have it. We should be using it. This gets dumber, though. We've got Mr. Bench posting this. This is all over social media right now. We've got the sign of Cypress Provincial Park. This is just outside downtown Vancouver, just on the North Shore there. They have replaced the sign with Cypress Park, removing Provincial from the park. We have all this stuff going on with the Musqueam, the federal government signing the deal to giving back all of the lands, the traditional territories to the Musqueam Nation. And then we have this kind of stuff. Now, the parks deny this has anything to do with reconciliation until you look right on their own website. I mean, it's right here. Respect and reconciliation. First Nations stewardship of the land. First Nations continue to be stewards of the land. Blah, blah, blah. I feel kind of used because I have a license plate that donates money to the parks. You can get these colorful license plates that gives a bit of money, $50 a year or whatever, to the parks. And we got Kelsey here absolutely blowing this up.
The government was questioned about the removal of the word provincial from the park signs, and their response was to dismiss the concerns.
Can the minister confirm that this NDP government has a policy to remove and replace signs that say provincial at BC's provincial parks?
I think that the members opposite have been reading too many conspiracy theories. Our parks are provincial and we're proud of it. There is absolutely no initiative to remove provincial from park names or signs. The Cypress Park sign was replaced because it was over 50 years old and was rotting through. The new sign includes a BC Parks logo to make clear that the park is provincial.
Now, I will be the very first person to tell you if I am wrong or I have made a mistake. But after hearing this, I went back to the research. The government's defense is that they are not removing provincial identity. They say that they're just using a BC Parks logo instead of the word provincial. Technically, sure, the logo is there, but a logo doesn't say provincial. A logo is a brand that can be changed or phased out at any time. And if you think that I'm nitpicking, go and head over to the official BC Parks website. I typed in park after park, Cypress, Joffrey. Guess what? None of them say provincial anymore. Then I typed the word provincial into their own search bar. And guess what? Zero result.
So she's 100% right here. If you search on the parks, she showed there, even anywhere on the parks, look, it says BC Parks. If you type in provincial, zero results. They've scrubbed the word provincial from the Provincial Park website. And the only mention of it you've got is when these old documents you can load up off the website. You can see Strathcona Provincial Park, or this one here, it's up in the top left, Strathcona Provincial Park. But if you look at the Strathcona page today, it doesn't say the word provincial. They're scrubbing this off to what? Give over all these provincial parks to First Nations? Sure seems like it. Why else would they remove the word provincial from these parks?
They've even issued a writing guide telling staff to stop using the term British Columbians for the exact same reason, because they've decided it is exclusionary too. Stop calling yourselves British Columbians and call yourself people living in BC. Oh, and I also found their Indigenous renaming checklist. They have a literal how-to guide to change the name of the parks. And they've already started that swap. John Dean Provincial Park is now Boyle Lake Provincial Park. Do you notice the pattern? In every single one of the official renames, the word provincial was the very first thing deleted, and technically the only thing deleted. They are spending $16,000 per sign to remove the name provincial from your public land, while simultaneously hiking up your camping fees to pay for it.
This is absolutely absurd. Like, British Columbians need to absolutely be furious about this. Meanwhile, we've got Mark Carney here saying there's no problem, nothing to worry about.
Thank my colleague for this important question. Private property rights are fundamental, and this government, indeed this House, will always protect them. This government fundamentally disagrees with the BC Supreme Court's decision on Cowichan. We immediately appealed that decision alongside the government of BC, the City of Richmond, and other First Nations. We will always advance viable legal arguments to protect private property. Federal agreements, including agreements about Aboriginal title, have always and will always protect private property. No modern treaty, negotiated agreement, or federal approach
He's getting ripped apart there by Andrew Scheer. You could hear him there. What lawyers? Their lawyers are not doing anything. Their lawyers secretly met with David Eby, the BC NDP, in the Musqueam to sign this deal to hand over all of Vancouver and Greater Vancouver to the Musqueam Nation. Nobody knows what that means anymore. Can the Musqueam just jack up everyone's taxes and they have to pay to the Musqueam Nation? They're going to start stealing all of the provincial parks that Canadians paid for all of the infrastructure to get to all of them. First Nations back in the day didn't have access to hardly any of these parks because it was the British that came in, which then became the Canadian civilization that built everything, the roads, all the technology that came in. Now it's time to just come and steal everything from taxpayers after we've paid for everything. This is a slippery slope. What we need is Carrie Lynn Finlay to be the next Premier of British Columbia. First, she's got to win the BC Conservative leadership vote and then get rid of David Eby. And as she's got an announcement here, she wants to unite the West, Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, bring this together, get Pierre Poilievre in as Prime Minister in the next couple of years, and we can start fixing our country. Look at this one, Ryan Garrettson posting, in Canada, non-citizen criminals are getting stern warning letters from immigration officials telling them to stop being criminals instead of just deporting them. Canada keeps asking non-citizen criminals to stop. They obviously don't. Immigration officials are sending stern warning letters to criminal placement residents instead of deporting them. It doesn't work. No kidding. Moving ahead, we've got Cosman here posting this. Jamal Tedamo, 23, dragged a Toronto woman into a downtown alley at 6:47 a.m. on Sunday and R-worded her. He was on probation when he was arrested. Was his probation order, please don't R-word anybody, Jamal? Like WTF. What do we say to this stuff? These people should be stuck in jail. They should have to work in jail to provide value back to that individual who had to endure this. After that value, which whatever that number would be, $100,000 is paid, then we deport him back to wherever he came from. We got Melissa with this one. Wow, truck driver Jaskrik Singh was scheduled to be deported on Monday morning. However, federal court Justice Jocelyn Gagne granted a temporary deferral just today. The Humboldt collision ended 16 and injured 13 others. This is in regard to the Humboldt Broncos bus that was ended because Jaskrik Singh. What do I say to this? Just to refresh everyone's memory here. So Jaskrik Singh blew through a stop sign near Armley, Saskatchewan. The driver of the truck had failed to stop at a flashing stop sign at an intersection of Highway 35 and 335 while driving at the speed approximately 100 kilometers an hour. He drove through a stop sign and 16 people lost their lives and 13 injured. I mean, looking through this right up here, he just blew through the stop sign. They declared code orange at the hospital. The entire community devastated by this. And this guy doesn't get deported. What a slap in the face to the families. Unbelievable. Moving ahead, we've got government-built tiny houses in London, Ontario. Is this the future of Canadian housing?
Claims the project has successfully reduced encampments and improved the lives of residents. The report reveals the shelter cost $3.3 million to build and requires $288,000 a month to operate. 68 people now live at the site, while 16
$288,000 per month to operate this? How? Why? Is there even running water in these units?
residents have left because it wasn't a good fit. The report indicates there's been overall positive feedback from residents who credit improved safety and access to services supporting physical and mental health. Claims the project.
Yeah, sure. If you're homeless, this is a godsend, to have a place to put your head and lock the door. It looks like they have electricity, but that's about it. Doesn't look like there's plumbing. There's not a sink. There's just a bed. How does this cost that much money to run per month? This is crazy. Not to mention $3.3 million to build this. Could they not buy these kind of units off of Amazon and just bring them in for a fraction of the cost? They sell these little houses on Amazon. Look at this. We've got Wasted Canadian posting this as a reply. London shelter resident says he'd rather return to the streets than stay at modular site. Resident says insulation, strict rules, cost make it harder to stay at sheltered site. This is the government right here. Someone said we found these for sale $5,000 online. Asked Peterborough why they were billing the government $100,000 each. This is what I'm saying. These things are not that expensive. They're charging $100K a piece and then they found them $5K. People are getting rich. They're just fleecing the taxpayers here. Beautiful 20 fleet insulated containers with doors and windows available. Now delivery everywhere. $4,200. By these numbers, for merely $100 the cost of one, you could get 20 of these units. And they spent $3.3 million. There should be hundreds of these things at that cost. Moving ahead, we've got Aaron Gunn with this one. Breaking: Brookfield is again pushing to ship Canadian hydroelectricity from Powell River straight to the United States with zero benefits to the community of BC or Canada. The reason they're doing this is because hydroelectricity can be sold as a premium power supply, an eco-green power supply in Washington state for a lot more money. Considering Brookfield owns this, it really says a lot about Brookfield as a company. They don't care about Canadians. I mean, really, Mark Carney helped Brookfield dodge $5.3 billion in taxes in Canada. So really, it's all about money.
They originally applied for a simple 30-year export permit that was rejected by Canada's energy regulator for the first time in Canadian history after huge amounts of public backlash from Canadians across the country, but especially in the city right next to the dams in the city of Powell River. Now what's happened is they've moved on to what's known as a full licensing process and review, which is what this is about, detailing that process. And at the end of the day, the regulator will make a final decision about whether to approve the export of power or to reject it.
So it'll be interesting to see what the regulator does. Do they get slipped a briefcase and a handshake and a wink, wink, nudge, nudge? Now, to end off this episode on a positive note, this one may be a little bit of a cheeky video to put up here. This is karma. It's instant karma. It's a feel-good video. Here's a lady trying to steal a shopping cart. This is down in America somewhere. Okay, we have to get rid of that music. It's oh, you think she'd check that, but nope. And then she's like, we'll just leave this here, which is like funny. That's instant karma right there. Instant karma feels good. I mean, this looks like it's a BMW, I think. Is that a BMW? It looks like a BMW to me, but for some reason needs to steal the shopping cart.